Okay, Vida, I'm going to follow your cue. Whenever you say start, then I'll start.
I think you can start, proceed, please.
Okay. First of all, thank you, everyone. This is phenomenal, giving me an opportunity to present what is the opportunity in context with US, Canada, and Europe. So basically, my background is more technology driven, but I also run the P&L for the organization, a group of companies. In terms of what kind of people do I have on this call? Are they salespeople? They are. Can somebody give me some overview so I can tailor the conversation accordingly?
So this is Amar Vakar from iEngineering. So I can give you a small background about myself. So I'm actually you can say a technologist who built a product line launched in the US, and I'm now I've transitioned into business development and interacting with clients in the US, handling sales, customer conversion. So for me, at least, this was quite interesting to just read the title of this this masterclass. So that's my background. So technical background, but also heavily involved with talking to customers, building relationships, and driving sales.
Amar, what type of organization do you have? Like what is the size of it?
So iEngineering is a mid-size kind of a company. We have around 90 to 95 people. It's a dual shore company. So we have an office in the US, and then we have a back office in Pakistan. And primarily we work in the transportation domain. So we build solutions and softwares to service the transportation industry. And our main kind of the end user is maybe a professional civil engineer or a transportation engineer. So that's the kind of work we're doing.
Got it. Got it. And what about, is everybody on the call is some business development background or there are technologists / business development?
I think it's a mix of both probably. So myself, I'm Hasib Khan. I am the VP of Innovation and Technology at Texel. Texel is a software development company. We have a presence in the US. We have our offshore center in Lahore. We are approximately, you can say, a 600 people company right now. And we work in custom software development, AI and machine learning projects, solutions implementation, RPA, blockchain, game development, etc. So overall, my role has been, you can say, be the bridge between the engineering and sales teams. You can say more of a pre-sales sort of a role. So and looking at the audience also, I mean, I know a few of the folks already on the call. So I would sort of say that it's going to be a good mix of people, maybe having technical background later on, graduating to be more business leaders or vice versa.
Got it. Got it. Anybody else wants to chime before we start? Okay, so let's I'll leave my contact information. If any one of you wants to have a additional discussion, we can always do that. So sales in US, or for that matter, in most of you know, it's not all about just a treadmill journey or shortcut journey, right? You know, wishing well, doing the right thing sometimes does not yield the result, right? What do we all want from our organization, especially the sales organization? We want predictable sales result and growth that is sustained, managed, and in sort of like, repeatable format, right? Because if you don't have it, then you are basically doing one thing at a time and then going back and figuring out what is the next project, right? How do I utilize my resources? How do I do my competencies, right? So we'll talk about some of it, but basically end result should always be that we have to have predictable sales result and revenue growth year after year in some meaningful format, whether we are a product company, product and platform company versus services company, or combination of the two. I hear a question. Is there a question? Okay, all right. So before we, let me. My screen frozen. So, okay, so who am I, right? I've been in US for 36 plus years, 30 plus years of doing managed services around digital cloud transformation, low code, no code, which is, we will talk about it a little bit more, data management analytics, including data science platform, right? Currently, I run multiple companies within US. It's a group of companies, over 350 million. In the product side of it, we have 3x plus in terms of gross margin. On the services side, about 1.5. So, I'll talk about it a little bit more, how we are able to accomplish it. There's a lot of method, discipline, and innovation into this approach. Otherwise, you are not able to get anywhere close to it. Lot of experience around functional domains. I have led CIO CTO forum from 2006 to 2010, where we build, like, in average, we have structured about 7 to 10 companies in a given year. These are innovative companies, which means we take a leap of faith on some technology, whether it's RPA, whether it's some kind of cybersecurity product or building some data science platform. So we build those things, but we would put some money into it, incubate it, and take it forward, right? So a lot of technology power happens before that. Also today, pretty much around anything that has to do with legacy modernization. When we talk about legacy modernization, it's about databases, applications, integrations, portals, analytics. You're taking the whole bunch of stuff that is infrastructure centric, but at the same time, there is business logic, there is databases, there are different data points, right? You're taking all of this and moving into the cloud, and we are cross cloud. So some organization, the enterprise organization, they may have AWS, GCP, Azure, IBM, you name it. It's a mixed cloud, right? So you're moving all of those applications into the cloud and then manage it. Technologies, core technologies could be part of it, but at the same time, there are multiple platforms, and I'll talk about some of those platforms as we go forward. So one of the thinking I had when I was thinking around this, that how does Pakistani companies take a leap rather than competing with Indians and rest of the companies, right? And I'll talk about that. So core technologies is a minimum requirement, but at the same time, how do we take it? I'll give you an example. If you follow Gartner's or Forrester IDCs, there is a new phenomena emerging in US, which is called low code, no code platform, which is basically building the application or product by the design of a domain. If you have domain knowledge, you can design it, and the backend is generated for you. Your databases, your backend logic, and your integrations. A lot of APIs are available, microservices. So very high end. If the companies in Pakistan decide that they want to take a leap, this is one area they should focus on. But it's a competency driven. It cannot be PowerPoint driven. In most of you that work with US companies, you know that after 1 or 2 presentation, PowerPoints don't work, right? You have to build the real capacity and capabilities. Also, partnerships are very important. One of the topic that I have suggested to Vida is relationship, partnerships, and the campaigns, right? So how do you build a relationship across the organization, Microsoft, who are the 800-pound gorillas, and leverage their sales team to build upon it, right? They have marketing development funds, they have lots of different options for you. They can provide you leads, but you got to be the best of in the game, right? You have to have certified resources. And also, like cloud, when we are talking about cloud in general, cloud is these days mouthful. So it's not just about infrastructure or cybersecurity or networking or firewalls and all. It's all about having applications that can live on-prem, third-party applications, cloud applications. They all mash into one, right? So if you want to play a bigger, better game, rather than just one project around a web portal or whatever not, you got to open up your horizon and say, what do I require in minimum to deliver upon it? So I put 2 areas which I think Pakistani companies can leverage. One is around digital transformation and product engineering. So basically taking legacy products, and there are plenty of this, like when I'm talking about low code, no code, in the next 3 years is a $65 billion market, which is just taking existing application and converting it. And I'm not counting government application or state application, those COBOL-based black and white screens and all, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about general application, transactional application. So if you think from that perspective, the two areas which are really defining the Western market, one is modernization around product, platform, and services. And the second one is data management and analytics. But when you're thinking of data management analytics, it's not about data engineering only or building the pipelines and storing something like a Snowflake or somewhere else. It's all about how do I get value out of it, outcomes, right? Using data science, machine learning, building modeling like churns and sentiment analytics and digital twins and others, right? So the visualization part, which we've been doing it for the last 20, 30 years, is important. But more importantly, can we use data mining and other techniques to bring something that is not known to us, right? And the companies who are going to survive and do well, they have to be 24/7, right? So when they are offering it, so they just cannot, they have to stop thinking from a project perspective, and they have to start thinking in terms of managed service, SLA based, agile delivery. In US today, we do daily bills, we do weekly bills, we do monthly bills, we do quarterly bills. So pretty much as soon as the feature is developed, the CI/CD pipeline that we build for our customers is available. For example, let's say you build a quote module. The quote module is going to be, as soon as it's built, as long as there's no other dependency to it, it will get rolled out, right? So if it gets rolled out, in 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, doesn't matter, right? What is the best way of selling? So we talked about technology a little bit. Basically, what we are saying is, where do you focus your energies? If you want to do, again, shotgun approach, which means today I'm doing Magento, tomorrow I'm doing some other portal, the third day I'm doing some product engineering thing, fourth day I'm doing some web applications, you got to create some deep capacity capability within the organization where you can do repeatable business. So selling wise, we all know this. How do you build relationship, right? So building relationship within a customer prospect, it means that you have to follow the bias, that approach where you're making 100 calls and emails and everything else. That is traditional way of doing things, right? You got to identify who is your prospect and what do they buy and why do they buy? What are their challenges? How do they work on it? Please stop me if I'm going too fast. I don't want to. I can take questions also if you have any comments or questions. So when we research on an account, for example, let's say Microsoft, right? And what is Microsoft investing in? So if Microsoft is investing into some platform like Power App platform, who are their customers who are going to be coming in, and what would they be looking at, right? What are the challenges in industry? If RPA is a solution, what does RPA means for Microsoft customers? Billing RPA versus customer support versus some other way of doing it, right? So, and then start tagging them along, start following those buyers. Companies don't buy, individual buy. So you got to start building a relationship with an individual who has a certain portfolio, is a C level, V level, D level. What is their budget maybe? So account planning is very, very important, rather than just allowing your people to keep on calling. Partnerships, very, very important, right? Microsoft is a good partnership. Snowflake is a good partnership. Databricks is a good partner, depending on where you are. If you're in the product space, who should be your partner that you can tag along on their technology, building the competency, building the certification, and reaping the benefits of their customers or prospect. Microsoft is very friendly in that regard. The last one is campaign. If you decide, okay, I don't want to, I want to do all three. So if I'm doing a campaign around data analytics, what does it really mean? Who am I reaching out to? VP of BI, Vice President of Business Intelligence. what do I say to him, right? Is he in the finance domain? Is he in healthcare domain? What are the challenges of BI in healthcare domain? For example, claim processing, right? In healthcare, how do claim gets processed and what are the challenges? I'm working with a company, a fairly large size. They have about $1 billion claims coming in every month. Now, out of those $1 billion claims, they have like about 10%, according to them, is fraud, waste, and abuse. That's their understanding. So now, what is a fraud? Where some network, medical network, is actually billing them, double billing them, using additional billing codes. So about 10% of it. So how do they stop it? How do they identify it? How do they stop that processing, right? So domain-centric information for your sales team is very, very important. And the competencies that you're going with and saying, okay, I'm a product engineering company versus I'm a Salesforce services company or I'm a net suite services company. It's very important that beyond the obvious, like which everybody follows, right? You got to differentiate what is your accelerator there. So are you investing into some accelerators or some IPs for that competency where you differentiate from rest of the audience there, right? Because today every RFP versus an opportunity come across, you may have 8, 10, 20, in some cases 80 plus companies are bidding for it, right? So what is your differentiator? So when you're doing campaign, agility is very important. How soon can you respond back to the customer once an opportunity is identified? For example, can I do in 24 hours? Can I give them the scope that this is what I heard? Based on what I heard, we think this is the scope. Do you agree with it? Within 48 hours, you are saying, okay, I'm going to give you some draft proposal. So you got to have a SWAT pre-sales team that is available, that sort of everybody, like we compete with IBMs of the world, Infosys and TCS and all. There, what we see is like they take 30 days, 40 days to put together a proposal. For companies in Pakistan, if they decide they want to have a very different approach to an opportunity, which means they have to have a SWAT team that turns 72 hours, whatever not, some basic proposal in front of them. This is what we heard. This is the scope. This is our approach. This is the technology we will use. This may be ballpark pricing. This may be the resource loading that is required for this particular engagement. So running a campaign gives you, how should I say, a method where you can make processes much more mature. When you're going for relationship, of course, relationship can say, I want a glass of water. You don't have, because you have relationship, you may decide to go after it, but it's a one-off. In campaigns, you can be very methodical, disciplined, but most importantly, you are driving to your core strength because this is a competency you have on shelf. In services and product, your inventory is your resources, how deep that your sources would be. And if you know this is what I'm going to the market with, and I have enough research behind it, what happens is like you are building the right competencies and take it to the market. And if any of you wants to have a deeper discussion on it, we'll discuss it offline. I'll share my contact information and we can go from there. Any questions before I go to the next slide? So generally, most of our leaders, CEOs, VP of business development, including the salespeople, right? They are frustrated because they will come to you and say, nobody's buying, right? They're frustrated. They don't have a systematic approach to prospecting, right? Why I should reach out to a given customer prospect. What do I say? How do I prove that what I'm saying versus what I can deliver upon, right? They don't have pipeline of qualified opportunities, and qualified opportunities means a decision maker has to be there, timeline has to be there, a pain point that is that is identifiable with your capabilities should be there, right? So qualified opportunities, our salespeople come to us and every day smoke something to us, right? But if you ask them, if you put a method behind it and say, is this person buying? Does he have a budget? Does he have a timeline? Did you talk about these 4 things? Then I'll consider it as a qualified opportunity to pursue it further, right? That part of it is usually missing. They may have one piece of information, and based on that, we waste a lot of time. So organizations spend huge amount of dollars and cents and hours on cluttered opportunities, which will never yield anything. So you got to have this mindset, a boot mindset, where your team as well as yourself don't smoke anything that is not legal, right? Make a method process and say every conversation that is going to come to my table, if it doesn't meet this criteria, go and have that conversation and enable that criteria. I won't spend organization dollars until then. Think it over when you, when you're talking about an opportunity, right? What is it about? What am I doing, right? Why I'm reaching out to this prospect, and what do I have? Because it's a buyer and seller going together, right? Seller has something of a value. Buyer, on the other hand, have a pain. If that pain and this capability doesn't match, it just not happening, right? It's just wishful thinking. Stress for the salesperson as well as it's consistent, right? Because most of us compete on price rather than value to close the sale. So you're always lowballing it. And even if you're not, so value driven sales versus where buyers see you as one of the key person or key organization who can drive the value that they are requiring versus just competing on price. There would be companies like in US, we see $12 an hour too, right? Where somebody would come in from somewhere and say, I'll give you $10 and $12 because they have extra resources. Never compete on price. Never. And when you're educating your sales team, make sure that it's a value-driven conversation rather than pricing conversation. Your sales team is uncomfortable or easy. So you got to find people who are arrogant. When I say positively arrogant in their thinking, right? They have the backbone where they don't care because it's not personal. Somebody says no, who cares? He's not your family, right? So you move on, right? So people who don't care about how uncomfortable, how many rejections they have, they just come in and do their thing every day. They go pick up the phone, they send emails, they follow up. There is a method to it, and nothing brings them down. 20% of the salespeople are generally, and this goes for us too in US, right? People who have 20, 30 years of experience selling in US, they are uncomfortable and uneasy when they get objections or rejections and things like that. They get down, they get depressed, right? So you got to make sure that your sales team who's struggling with it, how do you keep them motivated and how do you keep them energized? So there's a lot of boot camps should happen in an organization where teams are, like maybe there is a gong or I don't know what they call it, right? But basically, somebody has a win, make a big hoopla on it, right? Have people get energized by the people who are being successful. And if people are not being successful and they're not cut out for sales, then beat them out of your organization because they will, if they cannot do it today, they cannot do it after 30 days or 90 days and all. And we have all gone through that. Why salespeople fail, and from a leadership perspective, right? What can you do about it, right? They fail because when they are having a conversation with the organization of their choice, they keep on giving them something freebie, long sales cycle, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Customers that keep on asking things, give me this, give me presentation, give me proposal, give me change this, change that, right? It doesn't work. You got to make sure that you are fair to the customer. If customer has a cancer, it's an extreme example, and you are servicing that cancer, you're curing that cancer, then you have to see your value. Do not get into those long sales cycles. Put them into parking lot and move on until customer comes back. Continue to follow ups, but at the same time, do not dwell on those opportunities which will never happen. Sales forecast, right? When you hire somebody, either senior or junior, you have set up their forecast, right? What are they going to do on a monthly, quarterly, daily basis, right? If they are not meeting it, you got to address it. So if something is not working, it's about being different, right? So while you are pushing them to go and do the methodical sales, which means calling, emailing, following up and all. But if it's not working, there has to be a problem. So take them on the side and say, figure that out, right? Forecast, unmet sales forecast is a common problem. Everybody thinks that if they do one sale, then they are done, right? That's not the case. They have to keep on doing it. Sales habits, not following it, the customers, as well as, not having the discipline on a day-to-day basis. Prospect demanding and getting costly price concessions. Price concessions are given based on the right value and agility. If customer says, like in our world, we say you have 24 hours or 48 hours, you want this 10%, 20% concession. If you sign it, we'll get it to you, right? If you don't sign up in that 24, 48 hours, we go back to the base price. We got to understand that we are giving them something valuable too, right? As long as your pricing is honest with respect to, think about this, right? India dollars is about 75 rupees. You are around 218, 220 rupees, right? You can give them a lot better price concession, but at the same time, not do it as a first thing. The minute they ask for it, negotiate better when you're doing it. Lack of culture and methodology. What is a sales methodology? You have to have a sales playbook. Everybody in your sales organization has to follow a certain culture. They have to come in at a certain time. They have to leave at a certain time. They have to have some way of following a method which all agree upon, right? You can do tweaks to it, right? Not everybody is going to do exactly the same thing. That tweak is there, but that tweak has to be discussed within the sales methodology, right? And say these exceptions are allowed, but they have to be repeatable in some way, shape, and form. Hiring salespeople, most organizations fail when they hire the salespeople. Hiring the salespeople is the most costly venture for any organization. And most of them don't work out. Industry data says that more than half of the salespeople would not produce anything. So when you hire salespeople, you got to put them through grind. You have to have a boot camp. You have to put them into such a routine where they do things every single day in the order that organization want, around their competency, capability, as well as their why this is. Let me move this down a little bit. The screen is frozen. Okay, bidding wars. Bidding wars would happen, right? You have customers, and the only way you can deal with the bidding wars is build the rapport with the customer. Trust, right? Agility. How I talked about giving proposals sooner than later. Comparatively, I think 50%, we are around 350 million plus organization, and our 50% of our deals that we win is because of our agility. Within 72 hours, customer have pricing. We don't hide pricing. We actually, most salespeople hide the pricing until the end and then fail, right? Because then customers start negotiating after 3-4 months. Put it out there, right? Put it out there. You rather fail. There is a concept called fail fast. So I rather fail fast than stay there for 3 months, 6 months, whatever not, and then lose the opportunity. So bidding was agility, which means submitting the proposal, hearing the customer. Lot of organizations, when they present something, they give you this ballpark, all the capabilities that they have, right? Be very specific. Rather than selling 3 things, 5 things in your first go, if you research enough about that organization, let's say they are having a Salesforce project and or ServiceNow project or Oracle, SAP, doesn't matter, right? Go after that one thing first, build a report, especially for new customers. Don't ever try to sell 2, 3 things. Stay focused on one thing, unless customer bring it out and say, I have a second opportunity or third opportunity. Don't go after multiple things. You will get cluttered and you will not win any one of them. It's going to become difficult because now your team has to stretch building multiple proposals or whatever not. Don't overpromise. Most salespeople say, they say X, yeah, I can do X. Y, I can do Y, right? It's the pre-sales, delivery, and sales have to gel. What delivery can do, what pre-sale can build POC or pilot upon, or what sales can sell either from a lead generation perspective or direct sales perspective. Make sure that it's in alignment. You got to know that I can do this 70, 80% well, and then rest of it, you can build the capability as you go forward. But don't go after something where you have 20% of the team and then you close the deal and then struggle. What is the big message? Ongoing training every day. An hour or 2 should be allocated to repeat everything, role playing, coaching, what are the opportunities. If sales is not being trained every day, then what is happening is everybody's doing their own method and it doesn't work, right? So quality content, collaterals, methodologies, sales training. Sales is a living thing. It's a bread and butter of any organization. If you're not spending enough time and energy on it, then good luck, right? So this messaging around training is and role playing. Role playing is make sure that every day there is 1 or 2 hours where we do this in US actually, even the people who are 30 years, 20 years in US, born and bred everywhere there, we make sure that there is 1 to 2 hours where with their sales managers, they do role playing based on an opportunity. For example, if there is an opportunity around clinical trials. So if this person is focused on healthcare and clinical trial, how does he go about? Because sales have to be focused on a certain domain rather than making them generic and say you do financial industry as well and retail and healthcare and pharma and everything else in between. Make sure you have an expert because it's a different conversation. If you're talking to a healthcare claim processing VP, that conversation is so different from everything else, right? And unless you have the salesperson do 2, 3, 4 minutes of good conversation and he understands what claim processing happens to be, or clinical trial happens to be, or for that matter, e-commerce happens to be for a retail organization, he's not going to be successful, right? And most organizations, what they do is say, I'll bring my principal into it. Yes, absolutely, you will bring your principal into it, but give enough confidence that they would go to the next level, which is like a conversation, right? So getting a conversation out of it rather than doing 100 conversation and winning a single digit out of it, have lesser conversation, but thought through conversation, planning, discussion. Okay, what do you do today? Has to be there in the morning. We have 3 boot camps in a day. We start 6 a.m. in the morning. Because we also serve East Coast. So I'm in California, which is West Coast. So 6 a.m. of my time, which is California, which is 9 a.m. On East Coast, we do our first boot camp where everybody talks about what is their priority of the day, how they're going to go about it. If they have parking lot items, they discuss it. Then we do it in the middle of the day, and then we do it at the end of the day. So 3 conversations every day in between trainings and all. That also happens, right? So we do everyday boot camps, and then every month we take 1 or 2 days and then do boot camp again. And boot camp is not about just wine and dine kind of a conversation. Boot camp is fun, a lot of food, but at the same time, a lot of exercises. Giving people the energy and attitude during that boot camp that they come in next month and they are all fresh. They have new ideas. They are thinking different and better. Otherwise they would be repetitive. Once they learn something, they keep on doing the same thing over and over and over. That doesn't work. You got to find better ways, different ways to reach out to your prospects. So what is a systematic selling approach that helps most of the organization? Stop and think it over. You're having a conversation, you're not going anywhere. Why is he taking him out? Okay. So think it over is very, very important. If you're not a thinking mind, then let's say you have a conversation with a VP of digital transformation, right? And there is some appetite that he wants to do the next round of conversation. You got to understand where he's coming from. What is his portfolio? What are the applications that he uses within organization? How many SaaS application he has? What kind of databases do they have? And I'll do another exercise with you to make it much more detailed. But basically, you got to landscape this person. What is his touch point? Where is his budget? What he may be doing well versus every customer says, I'm doing fine. I'm not in shambles, right? But behind the scene, we all know that we work with Google, Facebook. I work with Fortune 100 companies. And even those companies which are very, very mature, they may have areas which is totally in shambles, but they would not admit it. So you got to think it over and be very proactive in your conversation by taking charge and say, rather than them talking about it, usually they are tight-lipped, right? So if you do a little bit more thinking around that particular prospect, what really happens is like you surprise them by saying, okay, what do you think about this, right? How are you doing this, right? You're moving, let's say there's a product that Google bought, Apigee. Apigee is a microservices API management platform. They bought it for $650 million. Now, what really happened is when they took over, Google is a product company. They do all kind of products on their own, but they don't take over acquisitions of this sort, at this magnitude. And there were 750 customers of Apigee. When we heard about it, we went to them and say, how are you going to manage this 750 customers across globe? They said, we have not figured it out. So we built a platform for them where we offered them a managed services platform where we says, until you figure it out, we will manage these customers for you. This is Sony, Burberry, Disney, Entity, many, many customers, right? $8 million engagement. But the thing is, we started the conversation because we have this background information and said, how do you handle this? We have this 24/7, and I'll show you some of those slides if you go to the next level. But bottom line is, we preempt the conversation. We created the value proposition for them. We give them a fair pricing. It has been 5 years, 8 million, 9 million every year happening, right, from that platform. Advanced questioning techniques is very important for your salespeople. This is where role playing comes across. If you have a salesperson who's focused on retail organization, right? What are the retail challenges? Why customer or prospect buy? What are the hidden buying motives, right? So you got to have that type of diligence. If the sales leadership or the CEOs of the organization do not invest time in it, then they just like, they are treadmill, right? They are just getting what they get, right? But if you want to be a different and better and really transformational company, you got to make sure that every domain you find out what are the challenges for that industry and why a buyer is going to be looking at you from a buying perspective. Systematic approach is very important, right? If you don't have a systematic approach for an industry and a portfolio, whether he's a CIO or CTO or VP of engineering or director of QA, VP of BI, data science person, right? What makes him buy from you? It's very important that if you don't understand their side of the fence, you would never be able to articulate your side of the fence, right? Because you have to tie up his pain versus your services. This is very important. Pipeline has to be real, right? Do not let your people fill the pipeline with bogus data. If they are going to create some kind of a cookbook and say, every opportunity, we do something called go, no go every day at the beginning of the day. The very first thing happens in the morning is which opportunities we're going to pursue, because we have limited pre-sales dollars, we have limited things, 1,700 plus people, but it's still limited. So we cannot do every opportunity. If we know that this is an opportunity, we have a good 50-60% of chance, we have capability available, then we go after it. Otherwise, it's a no-go. So go, no-go process is a different exercise. We can talk about it, but it's a very important that you implement that in your organization and say, I will take this opportunity, invest my dollars because I have a good chance of winning. And what is a good chance of winning happens to be, right? That's where your capability, your competency is beyond somebody else. You have accelerators, you have IP, you have something of a nature that distinguish you beyond anybody else. It could be price point also, right? I can tell you one thing. Today, your price point in the world, if you minus the stigma of Pakistan, right? There are some people who still feel that we are Afghanistan, not Pakistan. I'm sorry to say that. But if you think about it from that perspective, if you can somehow overcome the stigma, a friend of mine has started a company 2 years back in Karachi. And they built about 120 people in 2 years. And the company was totally dazzled by the resources that so they hired from NAD and some of the universities in Karachi, right? And then they trained them for 6-month boot camp. This is testing software. So, right now, this company in New Jersey is going to invest probably at least $20 to $30 million in Pakistan to build it up to 1,000 people, because in 2 years, it's totally transformed. Because what they did is like they've got the US processes, training, everyday training, a boot camp from a technology perspective, because of testing software. And then they have all these people have very good communication skills and presentation skills. So they hired a set of DNA and take it to the US company, and all of a sudden there is a $20-25 million funding that is available for Pakistani company, right? So a lot of opportunities there, but you got to make sure that you address it. Grow your sales by research. Research is very, very important. Do not have, again, that shotgun approach, right? Anything and everything. Identify your market segment and then go after it, build your lead list, acquire new logos, and then stay with it. Stay with it means manage services. The idea is not to do projects. Projects are 3 months, 6 months, and then you go away, right? Take projects which are product platform centric and then do it so well that you can have multi-year contract. agility and quality is the key to maintain and manage the projects, right? So um, uh, do not compromise your resources in terms of quality. Drive them to the ground, right? Drive them to the ground, not in a positive way, right? Incentivize them. This 120 people company that they have formed in Karachi, they gave them the cars, the motorcycles, and everything for the right audience, right? Now, next year, they're planning if these people wants to buy a house or flat or something like that. So create a good model where if they are doing 24/7 for you, you are also rewarding them based on performance. Have performance-based sales for delivery as well as sales. And I really would urge you all to think of inside sales, direct sales, pre-sales, and delivery as one organization. They all have to sing on the same tune. If there is a disconnect there, if you don't have any one of these groups are not aligned, marketing also, if they are not aligned with your thought process, you will fail. Your success would be undermined. Common sales problem, right? Prospects, any prospect you go to, what do? They do, I'm going to think it over, right? Keep on giving me stuff, right? So they are more demanding. They will take free consulting out of you. The gatekeepers would turn you away because in larger organization, you have legal, you have compliance, you have finance and things like that, and they have enough vendors. So how do I deal with it? How do I work with gatekeepers to go around it, right? So a niche area sometimes is better than wholesale offerings. For example, if you find a company which is doing database modernization from on-prem to cloud, and this is a need, then reaching to the right person and offering them a package solution where all their databases, whether they are Cassandra, Mongo, MySQL, MS SQL, Oracle, whatever, not DB2, avoiding the gatekeepers is a key. But the only way you can avoid the gatekeeper is like if you go to the decision maker, when you say, I have something special, then I'll offer you turnkey on this one, right? So have strategy around how to use your voicemail, email with the gatekeepers. And the best way to do it is like go to LinkedIn, for example, build the rapport with the decision maker. And then when you're reaching out to gatekeeper and say, John Doe has asked me to reach you, right? Because gatekeepers would always turn you down. So following somebody, I'll give you an example. There's a company called Direct Technologies. They're about $900 million or so. They're a group of companies. There, I started, one of my guys were reaching out and he was not successful. So we reach out to some of their CEOs, CFOs, CIOs, and others, as start just tailgating them, following them. When they write something, we'll go like and comment and things like that, right? So then my salesperson, the sales director, went to gatekeeper who was not attending to it and say, I talked to your CEO and he said, you need to give me half an hour of your time, right? So you turn it around. There are techniques, right, to go about it, but it may not work every single time, but it does work, right? To a certain extent. You cannot be uncomfortable about prices and fee. Put it out there, we all know who charges what, right? If we work with a lot of larger, our competition is larger organization. We know what IBM charge or Accenture or Deloitte or Infosys and everything else, even the smaller companies, right? So make your sales team comfortable, because let's say you have a price in mind, $250,000, right? But at the same time, you have not discussed it. After 3 months, customer is not willing to pay for it, right? So put it out there. Don't be uncomfortable of price and fees. Rejections has to be addressed. Don't take rejections personally because it will affect your performance. This is where those boot camps and energy part of it, a little bit keep your sales team as close as anything else, right? Every day something is fun is happening because it's the most boring and most challenging job in an organization, right? Delivery team has a lot of time to fix up their problems, right? But sales team has to be really motivated, energized, and whoever is not, you should be willing to phase them out. If somebody is not cut out for sales, then they are not cut out. You can give them 2 years, 5 years, it doesn't matter. Lot of salespeople would say my manager is not supportive. So managers, leaders, CEOs, and salespeople have to be on the same page and hear them out. Why the shortcomings, if manager is not attending to them or leaders are not attending to them, then you also have to address their shortcomings, right? So it's a team building, right? So everybody has to like, respect, love each other, but at the same time, the blame game has to go away, right? Whose fault is it should not be there. It should all about results, right? And the root cause of all of these common sales problem, right? You will find it in your overall approach. When you're doing it, it can be in the negotiation. It could be in I'm not getting anywhere. Nobody's responding to me. It's endless, right? When you sit down your salespeople and you say, okay, talk about why you cannot do it, they will blame on everything but them, right? I am doing everything right, but it still is not working. Not a good sign. So prospect, your buyer has a system and you as a seller have a system. So this is a dance, right? Where buyer is squeezing information from you, and we usually on the sales side or delivery side of it, we are just ideally it should be win-win, right? You're treating a cancer, you are a doctor, you're treating a cancer. So the person who is being treated should be very happy, right? But that is not the case. Generally, prospects are thinking, oh, you're taking my money out, right? They will never admit the problems that they have. They would never be open and sharing. You might come across very few customers who would be open enough to discuss it. Generally, that happens when they trust you enough, right? But generally, like they see somebody calling them, emailing them, or talking to them, they see you as you are after their money, right? And they want to protect it, right? They don't want to lose the control. In the prospect system, which is the buyer, right? They don't want to commit to a purchase, right? They keep on asking free consulting, give me this, give me that, right? So their attitude towards you is, I'm giving you a favor. I'm doing you a favor just to give you an audience. So, and that's where the biggest challenge is, because if you don't become a peer to your prospect, peer means they need something, you have something of value, and it's a partnership rather than you are subservient to them, right? They are dictating all the terms, price, value, timeline, whether they buy from you or not, right? So you're totally losing the control, and it's easy said than done. This is where you got to make sure your salespeople. I'll give you an example. If you ever come across IBM, a big organization, right? Within 30 seconds, 2 minutes, they're going to say, are you buying from me? Do you really have this need and all? They're so black and white because they are brand and they don't have time to waste, right? They have quotas to make, right? So it's okay for your salesperson to ask and be rejected at the first level rather than for 3 months keep on doing the same thing. So putting aggressive attitude in a positive way is the right thing to do. Where asking the tough questions, right? What is your timeline? If your timeline is like 3 months down the road, or you're just fishing for information and you're talking to 20 other vendors, then what am I doing here, right? So be very mindful of it. We talked about all prospect they keep the information close to the vest. What it really means is like they don't share. You're asking questions, yes, maybe. I need to go to my manager or leader or VP or whatever not. We'll come back to you, right? So avoid if you come across those type of prospect, right? Know which one you want to spend time with versus walk away, right? They are not doing you a favor, right? So if they think they are doing you a favor, so you got to make sure that you always drive the value by suggesting that what you have is something relevant to them, and keep on reaching out. Sometimes one person who's pretending to be a decision maker usually is not a decision maker or doesn't have the budget. That also you have to make sure that you have multiple tiers of connect. This is where the account plan comes across, right? So let's say there are C-level people, B-level people, and D-level people who are buying from you, right? Connect with all those people separately and see what they are, where you can fit in, right? So make sure that you have a bargaining position that you can strengthen by making multiple connects. The person, a D-level person, would be very nervous to say no if he knows that you're already connected to his VP as well. So you need to do a fine balance without threatening, without being obnoxious, right? But make multiple connects. Most of us see ourselves in a way that we are waiting for the customer rather than driving our own set of value. That needs to be avoided, because then you're at the mercy of them, and it's not a good selling practice. Prospect system. This is where the buyer comes in, right? We talked about it: pain, budget, decision-making criteria. They don't share, right? Or unless you have a relationship and trusted relationship with them, if you have not built that in the new conversation, they would not. If you say budget, they will say, okay, why don't you give me a proposal and we'll talk about it, right? And you don't know where to go from there, right? What is my decision-making criteria? You don't know where you're going to go with it, right? Is decision-making criteria being local vendor? Does it mean that you have certifications? Does it mean that you're tied with some vendor? If it's a product company and you're implementing the services side of it, right? So unless somebody's sharing with it, you are just shooting in the dark. It doesn't work. So another thing prospect do is like they want to learn your capabilities, free consulting, POC. You got to make sure that even if you charge $5,000, right? Don't do any free consulting. You will never yield, exceptions are there, but you will never yield a good project by doing free consulting. They will keep on asking, they will keep on sucking your blood, right? But POCs and free unless you're a product company. Hasib talked about that he has some products there. So if you have a product available, that's okay. You can do the demo because it's already pre-built. But if you're a services company and you don't have a product, and somebody says, okay, we are dealing with one project right now, it's a localization project, right? So now we have to do a POC, but it will take us several hours to several days to build that POC for localization Greek to English, right? Now, should we do that or should we not do it, right? Charge few $1,000s at least to make sure that customers see value in it. Otherwise, it's just, they might be talking to 5 other people and you would never know. Is there a question? Okay. Prospect generally commits to nothing, right? What it means, I'll think over, I'll get back to you. It's interesting, right? Let me talk to my boss. So basically, they keep on getting information from you, but this is where it's so important that when we go back into our earlier conversation, qualified leads. Is he real? Is he genuine? Does he have a budget? Is he the decision maker? Does he have a timeline? His pain and my services or product have a match, make sure that you get that out within the first one or two conversation. Otherwise, it's just good work for nothing. Prospect disappear. All of a sudden, you would find that they're not responding to your voicemail, emails, or whatever not. And you have not lost them at that point. You have lost them earlier on. They just sucked whatever they needed from you in terms of information and everything else. Sometimes there are a lot of mid-level managers who are dummies, right? They want to know what is going on in terms of innovations and all. And we do a lot of those conversations where we are educating our prospect in terms of cloud and data analytics and data science and robotics and product engineering, what is microservices and how does it work in your space. They got free knowledge. And then all of a sudden, once they feel that, they cannot hide anymore, they would stop responding to you. So you lost them earlier on because you have not done your prospecting well. What is a traditional selling system, right? Most of the salespeople, they sell features and benefits. But what is customer looking for? Customer is looking for solution. I have a problem, and how do I solve that problem? I'm a retail organization. I have e-commerce solution. I want to do it globally. How do you do that? I have localization as part of that solution. I have various different brands that I'm acquiring. I have new companies coming across. So instead of selling features and benefit, come up with your solutioning in such a way where you can actually become a partner in that solutioning, right? And sometimes what we do really is we say, okay, we will do a subsidized costing. Let's do a POC together. You have the data, you have the understanding of what you are trying to drive to. You do the business project management, we do the technical project management. Let's build this solution, the POC is a pilot together. And then take it forward, right? And put some price point to it, right? So that's how generally we try to get things done. Most people rely on presentation to close the deal. Presentations never close. Presentation is just a window. It's an introduction to your organization, right? It's all about solutioning. So do your presentation, make it very specific to the pain point, but mostly it's about your next step where you are doing solutioning either through a proposal, if you don't have something pre-built or IP or POC, but focus on that. This is where I was saying that sales, pre-sales and delivery have to go hand in hand into these engagement, where as opportunities are coming across, how do you deliver upon it also is very important. Objections are key. Somebody is saying, I don't have time, call me back, send me your presentation. Don't waste too much time on it, right? Handle objections well. There has to be a list of objections. If you start writing up all the objections, you will have objections as well as it would be all common across industry, right? So after 8 or 10 objections, you probably not find 11th or 12th. It's pretty much the same, right? You got to read behind the lines. In other words, if somebody says, call me back, right? Is he saying that, okay, I'm not interested? Or is he saying, I'm busy right now, I cannot handle it? It could be either way, but we got to read in between lines what it means for that objection and how I'm going to handle it. If somebody said, call me back, I would say, oh, absolutely. When do you think I should call you back? Should I call you tomorrow at 8 o'clock or something like that? Yeah, sure. Okay, I have my calendar up. Should I send you an invite out? Right? So you got to make sure that when you handle the objection, you can turn it around into some meaningful format. I'm not interested. Totally fine, right? Should I call you in a month? Maybe there's something else, right? So come up with your objection handling for your sales team and say, how do I do it? And repeat it very confidently. They should repeat it every single day until they become like, really good at it. Um, what time is it? Let's do a time check. 509. I want to give them, want to give them some QA time too. So I skipped a couple of slides, but a better way of selling, right? The building a rapport, right? Stop acting. The minute somebody acts like a salesperson, you lost it. Why do people buy from people who are technical enough? Because if somebody says, I'm doing HANA migration, what does it mean for you as a salesperson, right? This is why specialty of the salesperson is very important. Rather than hiring salespeople just to generate some conversation, make specialized salespeople in the areas of your competencies. Salesperson don't sell. Even if they set up the meetings, it's usually single digit, 100 calls. Even in US, we have 84 plus salespeople in US who, combination of offshore and US. It's a single digit relationship salespeople who are 3, 4, they are farmers and they are working with some accounts. They do much better because of relationship versus the people who are just traditional sales. It doesn't work, right? So rapport, building trust, connecting with them, following. It's an upfront contract. When you're talking to people, um, it's okay to walk away from a conversation, right? You got to make an upfront contract, a sales contract with them that this is who I am. This is why I'm calling you. Would you be interested in next level conversation? Do you have a pain point of this sort, right? This is where the research comes in. I learned that you are doing an SAP upgrade, right? So now what you're saying is, I know your organization, I know you're doing this work. Can I be participant in it, right? So versus I am company so and so, blah, 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 everything else, that doesn't work, right? At all, it doesn't work. Uncover and probe your prospect's pain. This is very, very important. This is where the research comes in. Your upfront contract is not going to be useful. Should I call you back? Is it worth your time, right? That conversation has to be there. And please, it's important that our sales team is that strong, where no point of doing this wishful thinking that, okay, by being polite, I'm going to get anywhere. Customers are not looking for politeness. They're looking to solve their problem. So they respect those people who understand their challenges and have some solutioning around it. If nothing else comes out, if it goes into a bidding process, you still have a seat on the table. Get all the money issues out on the table. Don't hide your pricing. That is the worst thing you can do, by holding the prices until the end after 2 months, 3 months, right? If customer says, what would it take? Once you do the scope approach, technology, resource loading, and things like that within 72 hours, put the pricing out there. There's nothing to lose, right? If this is an acquisition conversation, you can be aggressive on your pricing, but at the same time, holding the pricing is a bad idea. Understand and discover the decision-making process. In a larger organization, in an enterprise, you have to deal with legal, you have to deal with compliance, you have to deal with CFO. So understand what is their decision, because even if a decision maker is okay with your services, they cannot buy from you until legal says, yes, this is a vendor, right? You got to have a financial strength. If you're selling it to Google, you cannot be a small company, right? If you're selling to Facebook or Samsung or whatever not, right? If you're selling it to smaller organization, a startup, something like 50 million and below, there is a possibility that you're dealing with C-level people one-on-one too. But once you get to a certain size, decision-making process is very important. In a smaller organization, 1% or 2% can make the decision, but in larger organization, there are multiple groups get involved, right? So understand what is the decision-making process. Present a solution. Again, going back to, rather than saying, Why Simon there? Present a solution that will solve your prospect's pain, right? One solution at a time. Do not go with a shotgun approach with, okay, I can do this, I can do that, right? People are looking for experts. They are not looking for, if they want everything to be done, they will go to IBM and Infosys and all. Pick your space. I'm trying to suggest something here that for most Pakistani companies, if you can form a consortium means, let's say one of you do product engineering well, the second one does Salesforce well, the third one do SAP well, right? If you form a group of companies where you can go to US market in such a way where you still have one brand, but you can do 5 other things, each company position itself into their area of expertise and do not meddle with everything else, right? So be very good in product engineering, Java, Node, Angular, whatever, right? C Sharp, Blazor, whatever else is your expertise, right? Specialize. If you want to be repeatable in the US market, you got to be a specialist and you have to partner with that specialist ISV in order to be successful. Reinforce the sales with post sales, right? Make sure that you know your competition, who is your competition, what is their pricing, what is their value, and things like that, right? So redefine your selling process as a whole. And when what I'm also suggesting here is selling is an art, but it's also a science. There is a method, discipline, methodology around it, right? So combine these two, and it's absolutely required that your delivery and pre-sales work together. What are we selling? Why are we selling? How are we going to deliver? So don't make your salespeople isolated in their own cocoon and just do whatever it is. Everything has to be thought through. So moment of truth, right? Business is not won or lost when your prospect does not answer, return your phone calls, right? You have lost it way before that, right? This is actually, if you look at it and you look at an opportunity where you have lost it, if you really slice it, the postmortem of it, right? You will find out that there were signs that this customer or prospect is never going to buy from you, right? But at the same time, you have not noticed it. You keep on investing the organization dollars and energy on it, and then and did not. It's basically blame is on you. Create your own performance plan, right? For each salesperson, the sales manager, sales director, sales VP, CEO. Create, every individual has to have his own performance plan. Research what accounts you're going to go after it, what is an account plan, and there are a lot of exercises around it, right? That we can take it as in the next round. But account planning, where you get to know what customer has, what technology they use, who is who in that organization. Make an account plan for every activity. Generate your lead list based on your research and say, John Doe is going to focus on this domain. We're going to train him on this domain. We're going to give him collateral for this domain and then take it forward, right? And a daily boot camp. If an organization does not do a daily boot camp, good luck, right? It doesn't work. And we have a lot of losers on our end too, right? You have to make sure that you phase them out, right? Because if somebody is not doing a daily routine, methodical, discipline, as well as thought through activity, it's not happening. The lead list has to be thought through. Content collateral has to be thought through based on the profile. If somebody is a CIO and he's running IT services and he have transactional applications, SaaS applications, databases, infrastructure and all, you got to sell on his area of his domain, right? Otherwise, it doesn't work. You are shooting in the dark. Role playing is absolutely critical. Daily role playing. Problem solving clinics. What we do is every day we ask all of our salespeople that bring at least, wherever they're stuck, right? And they bring and they discuss their problem and say, I'm reaching out to CIO of Kaiser, and this is where I'm stuck. I'm not able to move forward. And everybody else in the team give suggestions. And you take some suggestions and go to the next level, right? Problem solving clinics is very important. Do not let a given person just keep on doing treadmill journey on his set of problems. Briefings, pre-briefing before the call, after the call, briefing is very important what you learn from it. And again, last is ongoing reinforcement, right? Ongoing training, ongoing, everything that we talked about. This is for sales manager, right? I'm going to be very quick because we have a little bit of time left. So leaders, right? Assembling your team is the key. You got to hire the right people. You got to hire slow, fire fast. That's the mantra, or that's the methodology that we should be using, right? If you cannot master the interviewing skills and techniques, giving them training, giving them, the exercises, putting them into a 5 days, 10 days as a probation, 90 days probation period, and watch them every single day. If you don't have the team, it would not happen. Recruitment is the key thing, not just in sales and pre-sales delivery as well, but in sales is almost critical. Again, going back to the people who have the arrogance, the confidence, the communication, the presentation, and willing to learn, right? This is important that they are willing to learn every day. There should be a topic for them to learn and say, okay, let's take an example. If you are saying I'm a data analytics company, what is data analytics? You need to know data engineering, you need to know data warehousing, data lake, you need to know BI, you need to know data science, you need to do data quality. Every day, give them learning assignment and say, you learn this today, come back tomorrow and present it to rest of the team. Right? So learning, where they do repeat it so many times in front of and this has to be like their incentives and performance has to be based on all of this learning as well. So hiring the right team and grooming them based on whatever you require for your journey. Managing, leading the team also, rather than doing danda and carrot and a stick has to go together, right? Motivate. Take a hero. Every day you want to make a hero out of it, right? John is a hero today. John has closed this deal, right? If you don't bring this culture of motivating, inspiring, energizing, then everybody's going to go to their cones. They have to be sales closers, self-director sales closers. They need to do it. No manager or leader can drive their journey. Then basically it's a bottleneck, right? The coach or the leader, his job is to make sure they are incentivized, their performance is being measured, and they are directed whenever they are sort of blocked, right? But they have to be self-directed. Build some kind of a process around the sales, right? Progress, paperwork, analyzing what is the market and intelligence around it. I don't know how many of you use Zoom Info or GovIQ and others. Having those tools is important, and that's a different topic because that tells you what is out there and where I am. And I'm Microsoft evangelist. I'm working with IBM and several others, right? I'm advising several companies, their group of companies. If you look at the market intelligence where the money is, you would be baffled. Like 2.7, $2.8 billion that the software industry does here in Pakistan, you can quadruple that within a year. If you know where the pain is and where the supply is, all about supply and demand, right? If the demand is higher and supply is short, why not build the supply and go after that demand? Because there's nobody else. Even the bigger companies, like if I'm partnering with IBM on a platform, it's called Watson. Watson is a data science platform. And IBM is so short of those resources that, every day we get like 4 or 5 requirements from IBM and say, give me Watson people. Can we build a Watson capability and then derive it, right? So, okay. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. What is any questions, comment, anything else? Hello.
Yeah, Hasib Khan here. So first of all, thank you very much, Khalil, for this insightful and wonderful session. Much appreciated. So the key question I have is related to the low balling. And the second one is about the requirements being shared by prospect at times. So, I mean, many times what happens is that when a company do some analysis on a particular project and they provide their price code, typically they have like a quarter of a code from an Indian or a Bangladeshi company, right? And sometimes they basically share that with you right away by screen sharing it or whatnot. So, I mean, really many times they are, I mean, large in numbers. They can, maybe the cost of living is cheaper, or I mean, there could be several factors, but at the end of the day, the price is really 25% of, I mean, what we quote them typically. So, I mean, how we can handle such objections when they have like 5 or 10 of those codes, and our code, no matter how valuable or how intelligent it is, I mean, double, triple, or sometimes 4 times of what they are already getting. So the prospect basically comes up with an objection that if 10 other companies are saying the same thing, and you are the only one who is like saying something else, how I can trust? That's question number 1. Question number 2 is about, I mean, many times prospects are not comfortable sharing their needs or their requirements, right? They just give an idea at the back of a napkin sort of a thing, right? Or someone meets the other guy in a bar and they just discuss like 10 minutes, and now it's a $1 trillion idea on the table. And next day they come on a call and say that, okay, I have this idea, just give me a number. Now, several times that number gets registered in their mind, and that is a number through which the whole conversation evolves. So there are several calls, then the things open up, and I mean the scope creep really happens, right? So it's devastating for everyone. So how to navigate such conversation by consultative selling? So these are my 2 questions. Thank you.
So this is Hasib, right?
Yep, Hasib.
So Hasib, short answer is prospect is lying to you. We deal with this on a daily basis, right? It's about value. This is where you have to get out of the price war. First of all, there is no Indian company that is cheaper than Pakistani companies. Absolutely not true. I mean, at a given point in time, we are doing probably 60, 70 proposals, right? Across multiple domains. So don't take prospect word as a real factual thing. They will never share that numbers with you, right? And what they are saying is, first of all, look at that $75, 75 rupees per dollar versus 218, 220 or whatever not, right? So there is no Indian company that I have ran several thousand people in India for many years. I know their price point. There is no way what you are offering versus them, they're lying, bottom line, right? So how do you handle that? Number one, when you are dealing with your prospect, don't deal it based on the pricing. And this is where the pair conversation or partnership come across. What it really means is like, don't sell as a Pakistani company, number one. Sell it as a US company, blended rate. So at Google, we charge $60 an hour on our data science platform. Why? Because we don't sell as an offshore company. We charge about $200 in US and $60 for the offshore, but it's blended rate around solution architects and data analysts and Python developers and rest of the trade. Never sell on price. Create a portfolio of US journey where you represent yourself, your Pakistani company. First of all, there's a big stigma still, and I've been there almost 35, 36 years in US. There's a big stigma around Pakistan. So if you change the equation, present yourself as a US company that where we need a deeper conversation and see, but basically what I was thinking and what I'm proposing is like, if Pakistani companies become a consortium, present themselves as a US company, and then based on their delivery capability, customer don't care where the product is being developed, right? In general, you give them a US folks, business analyst, project manager, solution architect, and everything else, and they control the conversation. The rest of it is being done wherever it's being done, right? That's how Indian companies are doing it. So the average price point for Indian companies is $20 all the way to $35, $45, even $60, right? So if anybody's saying, then it's not true, right? It's not true at all. So prospect is lowballing you. And this is where you have to read behind the lines, right? When they are saying this is what it is, you need to know that, what is fluff versus real.
There's one question on the chat.
Okay.
Saying of the 60 to 70 proposals you submit, how many do you close?
So we have 1:5 ratio. In some areas, we have 1:3 ratio. So 1:5 in the areas which is like, core technologies. 1:5 core technologies is Java, C#, PHP, and others, right? Core technologies. 1:3 is another area of specialization. For example, we specialize in Synapse, which is a data analytics platform, and we are fully certified gold partner in that. There we have closing ratio of 1:3 because we go hand in hand with Microsoft. So when you go with an ISV like Microsoft, IBM, Informatica, ServiceNow, Salesforce as their partner, you have 1:3 ratio. Like if you submit 3 proposals, 1 you win. But if you go in core technologies, this is a crowded space. Crowded space means that there are 8, 10, 12 vendors may be there for a given proposal. Then it's 1:5. But what I'm suggesting to most of you is like, you need to take a leap in terms of technology. There's a lot of innovation happening. So you got to have base core technology experience, but then go into the leap. For example, I was discussing it earlier. There's a platform called Synapse. It's a data analytics platform which has AI, ML also. It has data warehousing, it has ETL tools, it has robotic process automation, it has BI and everything else. So when you adopt a platform like that, all of a sudden your price point could be $35 to $45. And you would find very few people, few vendors, very high-end vendors who would be there. They charge a lot more. So rather than doing core technologies, which you should do, but at the same time, take a leap on a newer platform, like, where next 3 years, for example, low-code, no-code platform, there are multiples of them like Mendix, OutSystem, Power App platform, and others. It's a $65 billion market. If you guys decide that you want to do just one thing on product engineering and adopt this one platform, you can make enough money, more than enough money, right? And there's no supply available. For example, at this point in time, if I need to hire a Power App platform person, it will take me 60 to 90 days in US, right? But at the same time, there are a lot of companies in India trying to get to this journey, but they're still behind because they're big and transformation and certification. If you're agile, small company who wants to invest into training and building competency around certain areas, APN is another platform which is doing really well. So you got to really rethink your strategy, your delivery strategy, and your go-to market. Don't do too many things, right? Pick up a competency, be really good at it, build 25, 30 people, and then keep on taking that momentum because it's a repeatable work, right? Once you take a product, you can be there forever and ever because modules are going to keep on building, right? Any product platform company.
In essence of time, let's ask maybe somebody else has.
Okay, anybody else has a question?
This time has already passed, so maybe 2 more minutes.
Yeah. Any questions?
Question came in. Talking about large corporate who can afford manager, analyst, business person people in US. What about small, medium-sized companies who currently do not afford US UK-based workforce? Close a deal as US-based companies as don't have any US presence yet.
So the bigger decision that everybody has to make is, if you're going to continue to be a Pakistan-based company, you will always be struggling. If you want to go and do a big boys play, you got to have a US entity and you have to sell as a US entity. Because otherwise you will still stuck with 10, 12, 15, $20 type numbers, right? If you want to play, even if you're a small company, let's say you're a 25 people company, right? Make some choices and say, okay, how do I do it? Making that small investment in US by opening up an entity and then going after it is way better than struggling from here, right? So the choice is yours, right? That keep on struggling, being a small entity, and then say, okay, now how do I go to the next level? Or partner with other companies. Like I'm hearing Haseeb here and Faisal here and Furqan, team up and say, okay, together we will create one company in US, and I do product engineering, you do data analytics, the third one do some kind of other, e-commerce platform, whatever not. Create a consortium of company. And I know there is a lot of state mentality or, like a, individual mentality here, my company and all, but business is business, right? In US, we see so many acquisitions around competencies, right? And in India also. So I think that is a larger discussion. We'll take it offline. But if you're too small, but you have a very specific niche area, team up with another company and say, the cost of US operation, we can I don't know, share, for example, right? But go, I don't think you will survive much. You would have this on and off with being a Pakistani entity. You got to be in the country where you are selling in some way, shape, and form. Otherwise, it would be, just throwing the ball on the other side of the fence. My 2 cents. Southeast Asia is not an option. I think it's a mistake for you guys to even focus on where is the money. US, Canada, Europe, even Latin America is an option. When you go to Southeast Asia, Middle East, and everything else, yeah, it's a feel good. You get some money out of it and things like that, but you don't get big money, right? So if you want to build it, why not go to the markets where there is larger deals, there's newer technologies, there's a lot of innovation. I think it's okay to keep the lights on with Southeast Asia, Middle Eastern companies and things like that, or Middle Eastern vendors, but you got to have a strategy around bigger markets. Unless you go to bigger markets where you have better journey and your team is also going to be incentivized by better dollars and better services and better learning. Services and product business is all about competencies, right? So if you can offer your teams newer technologies, which is marketable better, why would you keep on doing Java or PHP or Node or whatever?
Time is up now. Let's
Okay.
wrap up.
Yeah.
Give your conclusion.
So I thank you, everybody. Appreciate the time. Thank you. And anybody wants to reach out to me for any larger discussion, you can find my contact information from Rida. All right, guys.
Take care. Bye. I think nobody will say hello, hi.
Huh?
I think it's all done. Bye.
It's all done. Okay, so we are wrapping up. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So I just stop it, leave it. Okay.
People are still sending thank you messages.